There we are.
Oh, the
Just
stream
like
is
that. Yeah. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another live stream on the Bow Wow Bill channel page. Um, I think that's it. Page and channel. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, and live streaming on Twitter, now known as X. And joining me today, Bryan Renfro. And let me do this. I always forget to do this little thing here, right? Wait a second. Here it is. Ready?
I love it.
I like that thing, man. I paid money and then I always forget it. And then another thing that sometimes I forget to do is to promote myself. I'm not a big fan of that, but if you guys like what I do here, consider supporting me. I have a Patreon page, and to all my Patreon supporters, I appreciate you so much. And if you're interested in um, doing the Patreon, here it is, and I'll also put a link in the comments down below. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on that. And with that out of the way, how are you, Bryan?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Bryan and I have been chatting it up a little bit beforehand. So, but for those of you that don't know Bryan, you should. For a couple of reasons. I'm sure you know some of the dogs that he's worked with. Bryan, can you give people a little introduction on who you are and where you're at and what you're doing nowadays?
Well, yes, I can. I'll give you the background really quick. We'll start off in the 60s because that's pretty much where I started. 60s, I was in a gang and problems, went to jail. When I got out of jail, I got into the Army, spent a year in Vietnam getting shot at in the Mekong Delta. When I got out of there, I started cleaning cages for $15 a week at Universal Studios in the Tour Center at the Animal Show. And let's see, I've been cleaning cages ever since. And this was about 1972.
Yeah.
So I've worked on many, many films. I learned how to train. I became the head trainer at Universal and the Tour Center. I became the head performer. And from there, branched out to many different TV shows and feature films. And in the 80s, I became a full-fledged stuntman and have been doing that since then. So I've been dabbling in animal training and stunts. Plus, I've been able to write. I've got an autobiography, another fictional book, and let's see, what else have I? Well, I've been able to act, and so I've been all around the film world. Now I'm pretty much working with Joel, doing the dog training for film, and that's pretty much what I'm doing right now.
That's awesome. Hard work and dumb luck. How the road through gangs, drugs, and a jungle ended up in Hollywood. Is that you?
That's me. Long title.
Well, it's a good one and it's accurate. And
Well, it tells you what it is. You know.
And then Casey, is that your novel, or
Oh,
was that?
Casey, yeah. I wasn't really happy with that particular book, and I'll tell you why. I wrote a full story of Casey from puppy to the end, and my editor wanted to make 3 different books out of it, and I didn't want that, and I went ahead with it. So I'm still looking to do the full story um, once I can, afford the editing and all that stuff. But Casey was one of the best dogs I've ever had. He was a border collie Aussie. I bought him at 6 weeks old at a farm for $50, and I was making $1,000 a day working him on different shows.
Wow, yeah, those are. Isn't it crazy? Even though we have so many dogs and we love them all, but every once in a while we get that dog. I call him the heart dog, right? That it will always
Um,
be attached to our heart, and it sounds like Casey's that dog for you.
yeah, yeah, he was. Years ago after he uh, passed away, it really bothered me, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to make up a story for Casey, and that's what I did.
Yeah, the dang editors get a hold of it and think they know best. No. That's
Well, it's really hard when you're writing something and it's coming from your heart. It's very hard for anybody else to really know what's here and here that you're trying to get on a page. So it's one good friend of mine who's another animal trainer, John Van Dyke. He's also a ghostwriter, and he helped me with my autobiography. And he's very good about trying to write stuff in your voice, and he was very good about that. So if I ever get the chance and get the cash, I'm going to say, hey, John, would you do my Casey story for me?
that's awesome. I want to I've been working on some books. I published them and then I took them right back, man, because they weren't what I wrote them, and then once I put them all together and made them, and then I read them, I was like, oh no, I need to go back into this and go deep dive into certain avenues and certain corners of this book because I just do not have translated what I felt I needed to on the pages of this book. It just came out kind of surface area, and so I just need to spend some time and focus on that as well. So I know exactly what you're saying, Brian.
Patterson, who's one of my favorite authors, he, you know, he says, write an outline, write an outline, write an outline before you write a book. And usually, what I start off on, I start writing a book, but that's pretty much like an outline. And I've always heard that writing is nothing but rewriting, and you just keep writing, and so there's the great. I guess fortunately I've been able to. I wrote a fictional book, and of course my autobiography is nonfiction. And the thing about writing fiction is kind of cool because you get to make people say whatever you want, act the way you want, be the way you want, look the way you want. You are the one. You get to do all these things, and that was kind of fun. But the autobiography, I I wrote most of it at my house on my deck. I used to have a 4.5 acre up on top of a mountain, and I would sit out on the deck with my coffee and just write, and it was really cool. But I did do some writing in coffee shops, and there were times when I was writing something that were funny, and I'd be kind of laughing, and there are other times where I was writing about Vietnam, and I'd be in tears, and I kind of lift my head up to look and make sure nobody was looking at me because I was crying.
Yeah. Well, that's got to be some type of catharsis too of letting this stuff out, man. And as we were talking about earlier, you need to talk about it. You need to get it out, otherwise it just kind of festers. Um,
Well, the very first story in my autobiography is a story that I wrote years ago for therapy for myself. I
okay.
was never going to publish it. I was never going to let anybody read it. I just wrote it for myself. And when I did let somebody read it, they really, really liked it. And I showed it to other people, and they were like, "Wow, that really puts you right there. You really are there." And so I, talking to my editor and stuff, I said, it's we decided to put that for the very first story. And the one thing that I like about my autobiography, you can open it up to anything because it bounces back and forth through the years. So it's not, you don't have to worry about, oh, where was I, on the story. This might be about Vietnam, and the next story might be about Little House on the Prairie when I was
Right.
working on that. So it kind of bounces around, and it's neat. You can just open up the book to any story and read a chapter, and it might be in the '60s, in the gang, or like I say, Little House on the Prairie, or or maybe even doing stunts. I talk about that a lot.
Well, and here I'll show people, and I just put up a link to it as well.
Oh,
My only question is who is this guy? Who's this guy right here
he's
on
the
that?
guy with the hair.
Yeah, that's what I was with Joel. I had to put up I had to put up a link to his DVD that he had because I was like, man, who's this guy with the hair? And look at that dog.
I know.
There.
I know. I've
Yeah,
got a.
goodness
I've got
gracious.
pictures of me when I was on the Johnny Carson show with that dog that was in that picture, and you know, people are like, "Wow, you were on the John? Is that you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I had hair back then."
What was Johnny Carson like?
Oh, it was great. It was really funny because I had worked the show a couple times ahead of time or before, but I never met Johnny Carson. We
Okay.
just did our little animal thing and then we're out of it. I got a call up at Universal Studios when I was doing the show up there, and producer said, "Hey, can you come down and do the Carson show?" Because the dog that I had was on a TV series called Here's Boomer, and that was in 1980, and that was NBC. And the night before, Johnny Carson had said that Boomer had been canceled, and it hadn't. So he wanted to bring the dog in to publicly apologize to him. And I said, okay. So I'm thought, okay, that's fun. So when I get to the studio, the one of the ads or the floor manager or somebody came up and said, "I'd like you to meet Johnny Carson." And so Johnny Carson came up and he said, "Hi, I'm Johnny Carson." And I'm like, "Who?" And he says, "Listen, this is what I want to do, and just have fun with it." So I said, "Okay." And as I'm doing the interview, I walked around to the other side of where Johnny Carson sits, and I was working my dog. He was in the chair next to Carson. And the last thing I wanted to do was have him sit up. And the chair was a little cushy, so he's having a hard time sitting up. The dog's real name, was Johnny, not Boomer.
No kidding.
Oh, I'm not kidding. And I never called Boomer on set. I always called him Johnny or Johnny. So when my dog was having trouble sitting up, I, in a stern voice, said, "Sit up." Oh, I said, "Sit up," or "Johnny, sit up." And he sat up, and I had little bites of hot dog cut up in my pocket. So I gave a bite to my dog, and Carson was pretending to sit up. So I shoved a bite of hot dog in his mouth. And I got a picture of it right up here on my wall.
No kidding, man.
Oh, yeah. So I think I'm probably the only one that's ever shoved a bite of hot dog in Johnny Carson's mouth.
Well, I remember being a huge fan of Johnny and watching him all the way up to his retirement, and we'd watch him every single night. And I remember being a kid during that time because that's when I was younger, and it was a real treat to stay up that late to be able to watch Johnny Carson because
Yeah.
I was in bed by then, you know.
It's funny when I after doing the show, the next day on the set, I was working my dog on the TV show, and all the actors came up to me and said, "Wow, I saw you on the Carson show. You weren't nervous at all." Because back in the day, I mean, Johnny Carson was the top show. That was it. If you could get on the Carson show, you were somebody, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a blessing because I mean, you can list that on your resume, and that by itself would get you gigs, I'm sure.
I guess I should do that maybe.
I don't know if people still remember. Isn't that crazy? This is how we know we're getting older. I look at these magazines, Brian, when I'm walking in the grocery store, and I have no clue who anybody is. And I think that's a good thing, all these like pop culture magazines, and I really don't. And you know what? Honestly, I've been on some TV shows as a dog trainer, and I think that is what helped me get on these shows is because I had no clue who anybody was.
Ah,
And so when I met him, I just treated him like we're talking now, just like a regular person. And I saw some pretty cool stuff on these shows that I did. Like I was on a show called the Untitled Action Bronson Show in Vice Studios in Brooklyn. And they had all these special guests. It was like a talk show. That's why they called it Untitled, because it was a cooking
okay.
show. It was a talk show. It was a comedy show. And people would walk through the door and everybody would just be like, "Oh my goodness." And I'm like, "Who's that?"
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know? Right. I'm like, I didn't have any clue who anybody was, and it was cool to get to know them, but I think that when people are fawned over all the time, like, it gets to be a little much, and people get a little weird, and
Yeah,
especially around celebrities, and
yeah.
especially the other aspect of this, Brian, was when I saw that camera, like, I was hanging out with these people just like you and I were hanging out before talking now,
Mhm.
and then once those cameras came on, they switched. Like, I saw people that were one person when I was talking to them, and then when those cameras came on, they were a completely and I'm just, like, looking at them by the side, like, "How the heck is who are you?" Like, it was an interesting thing to see,
Yeah.
the psychology, I guess, of fame, and,
Well, I never, and that was one of the things that problem in writing my autobiography. I always kicked myself for not getting all the pictures and all the things with the actors that I worked on. But to me, it was my job. I enjoyed doing it, and when I just didn't care that much. I mean, actors are, they do the same thing I do. They put their pants on the same way I do, and they're just people, and that's all. I just went in there to do I just wanted to do a really good job, and then go home. I didn't really care, and now after writing the autobiography, I was like, oh man, you needed. Look at all those people. James Cagney, and you don't have pictures with him. Come on, But I didn't. I just wasn't that. I wasn't starstruck, except for,
who?
huh?
Who were you starstruck over? I'm curious.
Michael Douglas's wife.
No kidding.
You know who that is, right?
No, I don't, but let me see
Oh,
here. Michael
it's funny.
I know
I'm
Mike
having a hard time remembering her name.
uh,
And she was in a movie called Entrapment with Sean Connery, which was one of my favorite movies. But
not Catherine Zeta-Jones, not
yes, Catherine Zeta-Jones.
ooh, I can see why, man.
Yeah. He was. I was doing stunts on a movie that he was in, and a friend of mine was directing. And his Catherine came to say hi on the set, and I really did stand there with my jaw on the ground, and I was like, oh, she's
Yeah,
more
I've seen her.
beautiful in person than she was on film.
Yeah, I've seen her. I remember her in Zorro, right? Zorro is one of the ones
Yeah.
that I'll always
The other
remember with her.
person was I got to meet for a brief time James Cagney, and a lot of people in your audience probably don't even know who that is, but he was the actor, big time, back in 40s, 50s, 60s, and I got to see him. He was in his 80s at that time, and he was just sitting down. The producer had brought him in, and you should have seen all the other actors on the set. They were falling down in awe. They couldn't believe James Cagney.
Yeah, he's the actor's actor, you know? What
Oh,
what what film is this from? I can't remember. This
oh,
one
what's that? The picture that you're showing now?
yeah, what is that? I remember seeing him in this one. Maybe
I
somebody one of our audience members can help us, but,
Well, the famous scene was when he takes the grapefruit and shoves it in that woman's face. I guess I don't know if it was. I don't forget the movie, but I forget whether it was his wife or girlfriend or somebody. I don't know, but it was. Um, but
yeah,
what
look
an
at all
amazing,
these.
he was a true legend, and out of all the people I've worked with, I think that him and Catherine Zeta-Jones were the only people that I've ever really been kind of starstruck about. All the other people I didn't care. I
Well,
mean,
and I
they're
wanna
some
go
really nice actors. Don't get me wrong.
right.
They were some really cool actors that I had a lot of fun with. But to me, they were just a guy you could a guy or a girl maybe you could sit down and have a beer with and talk to.
Yeah. Or some of them you're like, "Or not, because I don't like you." Because there's some
Oh,
people that I've met that I'm just like,
there's
"Man,
a
that guy
few
is
of them.
pretty pompous," that guy doesn't even, doesn't give anybody the respect, and that's what I like to watch is how people engage with the producers, with the cameramen, with the, and you can see pretty quickly who's authentic, who's cool, and who's like kind of has an air about them,
Yeah.
and that's very easy to see. And they,
Well, I got to work with Michael Landon for a lot of years, and I've never met any person whom I respected so much as Michael Landon. And he was,
God bless him.
besides being brilliant, and he had the greatest sense of humor, and you could hear his booming laugh for a mile away. I mean, he was really cool. He kept that set very friendly. It was always nice. All the kids on the show, they had their own area, and they would play and have fun. And I was, and Michael, when we were doing working on a show from Little House, The New Beginning, which he wasn't acting in anymore. He was producing and directing and stuff. And he turned around. I was with him working something. He turned around to the crew and he says, "You know why I like working with Bryan so much? He's got grayer hair than I do, or more gray hair than I do." And he was. I've never got to work with anybody as cool as he is. I love that guy.
You know that I went to Michael Landon's funeral on the set of Bonanza. They had a memorial there for him, and as a kid, I was there, and we got invited, and I didn't remember, I didn't even know what Bonanza was, and then we went to the set, and I knew who Michael Landon was, and I respected him, and one of my favorite shows that he did was Highway to Heaven, and he was an angel, right? And
right, I got to work on that a couple of times.
Well, it was so fitting that he was the angel, man, because you could just tell that guy. I wish I would have met him. I would have loved to have met him, to have shooken his hand, and just to Well, and
special, good guy.
Yeah, just special people. I'm glad you mentioned him too, and I remember growing up watching House on the Prairie. But before we go, I want to bounce around a little bit, and I want to go back because you were in the gang, and then you went to the Army, and a lot of times that's good for people that have a little bit of a rough side, because it introduces. Well, what were the benefits of joining the Army, and why did you choose to go? Was it the Army that you went into, Bryan?
Yeah. Well, after I served my time, got out of jail. The same two cops that had put me there pulled me over the day I got out of jail, and I was in this club called the Lynchmen, and the two cops said, either you get out of the Lynchmen or we're going to make sure you're dead or in prison. And at that, and I think I was 18, 19, somewhere around there, 20, I can't remember. And I was like, I got it, and I had to get out of it, but I didn't have much of a family. My dad had died a long time ago, and my mom was having problems, and I had no money, and it was like, well, what are you going to do? I mean, how do you get out of that type of hole? And fortunately for me, a little thing called Vietnam was going on, and so I went down and joined the Army Airborne, and they said no. And this is in 1968. I mean, people are burning their draft cards, right? And I'm trying to get in the Army, and the only convictions I had were for fighting. Just boom, 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 fighting somebody else. That's all it was. There was no robberies or murders or anything. I just fight. And I always thought, well, I mean, really, if you're fighting a war, isn't that the kind of person you want?
Yeah, wouldn't that be a benefit?
So it took me 6 months and 3 tries, but the Army finally took me, and honestly, I got into the Army. I tried to get into the Army to save my life, because I was going nowhere. I was heavy into drugs. And I talk all, and I lay it all out on in my autobiography that one morning I went into the bathroom and I had a jar full of all kinds of different narcotics, and uh, I, I, I looked at myself in the mirror, and you know, I was like 18 or 19, and I was skinny, and my eyes were. It just looked really bad, and I realized that I wasn't taking the narcotics to feel good. I was taking the narcotics not to be sick.
To
And
feel
when I
normal.
realized that, I opened that bottle and I poured them down the toilet and I flushed the toilet.
Hmm.
And I said, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And it took a while to get off of that stuff, and I did. And the army saved me. I damn near got killed a lot of times over there, but it did save my life.
Well, and then you got out of the army, and then how did you find Universal Studios?
Well, one of the getting arrested was one of the best things that ever happened to me. The
Interesting.
second thing was really good. They had to give me my job back because I volunteered for the draft. So once I got out of the army, they had to give me my old job back. And I was riding down Van Nuys Boulevard or Sepulveda Boulevard. I can't remember in the Valley in California, and a guy pulled out in front of me, and I hit him at 50 miles an hour on my motorcycle, and he was in a pickup truck, and I hit him square on, and it broke everything on that motorcycle except the sissy book. And
Wow.
I banged up my leg, and the next day I went into work. They fired me. I think they were trying to get rid of me anyway. So my uncle Ray Berwick, who did trained all the birds for the birds and all that stuff.
No
He
kidding.
was the owner, and he was running the show at Universal Studios, the animal show. And my mom pleaded with him to maybe give me something, some kind of work until I could find a job. And I'm a high school dropout. All I knew was how to, disassemble an M16 and fire it, and walk through a jungle. So I started watching people and trainers. I watched my uncle train and stuff, and I finally said, "Can I? Is there something I can train? I'd like to try to train something." And he pointed to this big bird. It was a green-winged macaw parrot, and I said, "Okay." Knew nothing about him. I said, "What's his name?" And he said, "Tuffy." And I said, "Really? Why?" Well, he eats everybody. That's why nobody works with him. So I took this bird and I trained him to do everything um, a macaw parrot can do. Well, ride a bicycle, scooter, put a dime in a just everything. And the very first time and the very first time I was teaching him something called "Show Me How You Love Me," and the bird walks up your arm and puts his head on your chest. And I didn't know what I was doing, and I'll never forget the time I was sitting out on stage in between shows, and I said, "Show me how you love me," and he did it, and I started to cry. I was like, "I can do this. This is something I can really do. It's something I understand." I like I said, I was a high school dropout, and I had no direction. Uh, I had no skills, anything. But when I trained the Tuffy, I realized that I could do this, and from there, I've been been doing it ever since, and it but the motorcycle thing, getting into that accident, was another thing that pushed me to where I needed to be, an intervention of some sort.
Well, and it's also sometimes the biggest challenges are in our life. There's as we look back, right? They say hindsight's 2020. And we
Yeah,
can see wow, that was one of the most important things and one of the best things that ever happened to me. A car wreck and getting arrested, right? It's like these are,
absolutely.
the forks of the road of destiny that we remember as we look back upon our lives. And I'm going to be inviting Joel on here a little bit later during our conversation. And just like you said with Tuffy, like I can do this. Joel's been working with special needs kids, and just like what I was talking about earlier, that's the empowerment, man. That's the
Oh yeah,
empowerment, like working with animals and then realizing I can do this. Like
yeah.
I am capable. to a world that has told me that I am not. Like, this
Mhm.
has given me a different perspective on life. This has given me a different perspective on who I am, and empowered me to know, like, if I can do this, what else can I do that maybe I thought I couldn't? And so we're going to be talking about that, and that's why I think it's so awesome that he's working with these kids.
Oh, I think it's such a brilliant move on his part. It's going to be a very very rewarding, uh, but not just for him, but for the people he's working with, but also the family members. Um, that's very very rewarding for them to see what's happening and to see their kid or their relative of some sort is having joy and learning to do something, and that I think that means so much to them, to all of them, and I just I can't commend Joel enough for doing this. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Well, we'll have a chance to tell him about it. So Tuffy gives you some love, and
Yeah,
then
so
what happened next?
after Tuffy, I was able to. I, honestly, in the film business, like I say, I've been able to write, and I've been able to do stunts, and I've been able to do acting, and I mean, I failed English when I was in the 10th grade. The teacher that I had, I didn't like, never paid attention to her. Took the class again. I had a lady that was a little older. She was a good teacher. I got a B in the class, and it just goes to show you the difference in teachers. I mean, this teacher was really cared, and I really liked her, and I busted my hump, and I always joke around. It's like, hey, I'm a high school dropout, but I done writ 2 books.
Well, and we talk about master coaching and the importance of master coaching, and that's something that, as people that teach others about dogs, and the majority of the people that watch watch these live streams are dog professionals, people that work with them in some capacity, and some of the best in the industry, in my opinion, are the ones that watch this. So just it's good to be that teacher. It's good to be that influence in somebody's life that not just empowers them, like I was saying, but also that encouragement of being proud of their achievements. And
Yeah.
like we were saying about the watching those kids do something, it's like when I watch my students and they finally get it, and it's almost like a dance with that animal. Um, like, I'm so proud of them, man, and it's just it warms my heart, and that's why I do what I do, is to see those breakthroughs come along, and to see that it's life changing for them as well. And but that's where it is like the relationship aspect of working with animals is not just cookie cutter systems. It's a bonding. It's how that animal interacts with you, and how you
They're all
understand.
individual.
Say that
Yeah,
again.
like one of the things we teach this in our dog training for film stuff, and I always tell the students, and we all know this, but all the dogs are different. You can have 6 puppies in a litter, and they got all different dispositions, and so you work with individual dogs, and a lot of the training is not always black and white. I've trained like the mailbox thing, where the dog opens the mailbox, puts the letter in, closes it, and pushes up the flag. I've trained that to many, many, many different dogs, and a lot of times you're training the same thing, but you're going about it a different way because of the dog has a different personality than the dog you worked before. So a different learning, and so it's always unique, and it's always fun, because once you get to that point where you know you're going to end up, you finally get there. It's like, yes. I mean, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it's also making progress, and it's that trust that happens with that dog. And like I have a dog with me now that's here for a board and train, and people don't realize, like, the first few days we're just hanging out, man. We're just getting to know each other, and and I'm
following.
petting him up and inviting him to come over to me, and when he comes over to me, I'm like, "Dude, what's up? Good to see
Yeah.
ya." And I'm not taking. I mean, I do what we were talking about earlier. I'm mostly a leash and collar guy as well. I do the e-collars, but I do the e-collars once the behavior is established, and it's just another layer of influence with that
Yeah.
dog, and it's like a
It's
tap on
another
the shoulder. Yeah, it's just a tool, but just
yeah,
like anything, like every tool has to be able to go away. I want the relationship to the dog to respect me, not the tool, and
yeah.
to
If the dog
behave with.
doesn't like you, um, that's and this is something that happens on a film set. If you get with an actor that doesn't like dogs, and they are out there,
Yes.
the dog right away picks up on that. And I don't care what angle you used to film it with. It's going to, if you have the dog and the actor in the same shot, the dog doesn't like the actor, you're going to see it. You will see it. And I always tell you, you have the most important thing you do with your dog is build a bond. Be his buddy or her buddy. Be their friend and everything. Okay, hey, this is really cool. Let's play stuff. All right, hey, you want to learn something? Hey, let's do something. Let's here. I'll tell you what. Here, sit down. Now, yeah, yeah, that's good, 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 good. You know, I'm that kind of person. I get excited. Like I'll even in the class sometimes when the students are working their dog, and they're trying to teach their dog what we're telling them and stuff, and they'll do it, and I'll be like, okay, Pam, 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 yeah, that's good, Pam. I
Yep.
get so excited just watching them do it.
Well, and that's what I call it, dog money, right? And there's certain aspect of people you want somebody to do something, you pay them. They do a good job, you pay them. You give them a little bonus, like there's compensation packages. But on the flip side too, like there's basic etiquette that I expect. Like when we're out and about, I don't want you biting people. I don't want you growling at people. I want you being polite and respecting our elders and saying please and thank you, and I'm not going to pay you for that. I'm going to be proud of you and say good job and stuff like that, but I'm not going to give it $20. But there's times that maybe you might mow the yard or something with clean your room without being asked, and guess what? There's going to be a little hidden compensation bonus that we're going to give you, and that rewards behavior, right? It's just an incentive that brings value, um, overall value to their life that they can, um, you know,
Yeah,
they can utilize to buy things, or in the human world that maybe they want a
right.
video
Yeah,
game or
yeah,
candy or whatever they want.
yeah. It's interesting. People. There's a lot of people out there that should be maybe treating their kids like we treat our dogs. you know,
A
we
lot of
we
it correlates, man. A lot of it
we
correlates.
teach them not to do stupid things. No,
Yeah.
don't do that. Do this. This is really rewarding. This is really good. I've seen so many people, say like the lady in the got her little kids, and she's trying to load all the groceries onto the conveyor belt to pay for everything, and the kid keeps grabbing a candy bar, and the lady keeps saying, "No, put that back. No, put that. No, you're not. Oh, all right." And I just want to fall down and die. You you just told your kid not to do that 14 times, and then you say, "Oh, okay." Here, what did you just teach your kids? I mean, it's like letting your dog do the things you were talking about. No, don't do that. No, don't. Oh, all right, go ahead. Well, you just taught them to do what you don't want them to do.
Yeah, or same thing when you tell them to do something, and then you have to tell them over and over and over and over and over again. The dog, just like the kid, is like, "Oh, I got 5 more. I got 5 more
Yeah,
before either they mean business, or I got 5 more before I win." Right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so it's like
yeah,
one and done, right? When I tell you to do something, I want you to do it, and there's consequences for doing and not doing.
yeah.
And
It's
same thing
not
when
a
I
big deal.
it's not a big deal at all.
It's not a big deal at all. They just come here. Lie down. Very good. That's a good boy. That's it. It's just not a big deal. I think too many people, and I always say this, if you put out, you put on a table a whole bunch of parts for a computer, and you say, put that together. And if you don't put it together, I'm going to smack you. Well, you're going to be smacking me a lot because I don't know how to do it. However, if you taught me to do it, then you could give me some M&Ms for doing it. No smacking. So you have to put yourself in the dog's mind. Does your dog know what you want him to do? You know what you want him to do. Does your dog know? If your dog doesn't know, then you can't get on him for not doing it. Teach him what to do and then reward him for it. It's not that. It's not that. Believe me, if I can do it, a lot of people can do it.
Well, and it's not also to understand that it's incremental learning as well, and that you can get overwhelmed, right? And it's like, no, just put this piece together here, put this piece together here. Let's stop and make sure that you know where we're at and how to do it to this point. And then let's practice it a couple more times.
Yep.
Okay, good. You know that. Now let's do the next step and then practice that a few more times. Now let's go back to the first step.
Everybody wants to move too
Right.
fast.
Yeah.
And that's something that we talk about a lot in our course. Don't try to move too fast. You have to have the foundation, the basics. Have the good foundation before you start to move on to more complicated or different tricks or behaviors or whatever you want. But you have to have the foundation. I mean, coaches, a football coach would say that, hey, that kid is really good. You don't want to know why? Because he really learned the foundation of the game. He learned all this stuff before he moved on. And it's the same thing with the dogs. Don't try to move too fast. Move it their rate. If they're doing good, okay, you can move on. If you're having problems and you're trying to move on, regress. Go back to training. Let's start it again. Okay, this is where. Okay, now you're getting it. Now you're starting to understand. It's common sense, really. I mean, I'm not the sharpest pencil in the drawer, but I do have common sense. And for me, training is common sense.
Well, we just got a comment here. And if you guys have any comments or questions, let us know in the comment section down below. And Rochelle says, guilty. It was such a good reminder from you and Joel to slow down, not even just in training, but life. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And just taking some time and slow it down, man. And even with my clients, like there's a couple aspects of this. Like they want to be on step 15, step number 16. And I'm like, show me step 1 first.
Yeah.
Now show me step 2. Now show me, and let's focus on that. Let's go back to showing me that the dog understands before we start to build onto this very high level. And that's what I'm more important in, because you're not going to need my help. When you have all these steps established, you're going to naturally progress. And you might need a couple pointers on how to build stability in that or whatever. But as long as you have brought the dog up or brought yourself up to this level in a way that you didn't skip any steps, it's going to be much easier to achieve what you're looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. If you build a good foundation, it's easy to keep building. If you have a foundation with playing cards, it's not going to last.
Yeah. Well, you guys, if you wouldn't mind hitting the share button as well, we have more people joining us, and I want to go back to where. So we talked about Tuffy, and I still want to kind of talk about your progression as a trainer. And when did you start working with dogs? And what was your first job?
Ooh, well, I first started working with dogs at Universal Studios in the tour center, and they were already in the show, so I started working with them. They had been trained to a certain level, and then I could go in there and teach them something different. So I started to learn that way. The first, geez, I honestly, I don't remember the first dog. It might have been. I had a dog named Joey that was. He was a border collie Samoyed mix. I don't know where
Hmm.
we got him, and yeah, that's the same thing I felt. And but he was dynamite. I mean, I trained him to do the whole show. I trained him to work away. I don't know. Do you know what we call the work away is?
No, let's talk about that.
Well, it's a very interesting. I learned this from a trainer named Clint Rao, a very 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 good dog trainer in the film business. And when I was working the Boomer show, we had Clint and his dog come out, um, and the shot was to walk straight away from camera and fall down dead. And so Clint had the dog going away from camera. There's no trainer in front of him. Clint was giving him the cues from behind, and the dog's not looking at him. He just did what he said, and I was blown away by that. So I went back to Universal with my dog Joey, and I trained him to do everything he knew as a workaway. So I would in the show, I put it in the show, and I would say, now I'm going to work Joy. It's called a workaway, and this will prove to you, number one, that they understand the words because it's not going to be able to see me. And we use this technique if we want the dog to work directly to the actor, and they're showing the camera is from behind the dog and looking at the actor. You can't have a trainer back there because you'll see him. So I could work the dog directly behind my dog, and I could tell him, go on, lie down on your side, sit, stand, sit up, wave, everything. And that's what the workaway is. And it's you. And I keep telling people, don't try to do this until your dog really, really, really understands the words. How do you do that? Well, here's what I do. I use a big 4x4 table, carpeted, and that's how I train a lot of my dogs in the beginning. So you're not destroying your knees. And I teach them once I feel pretty good with them knowing the words, then I stand there with my arms like this, no movement, and it's like lie down, stand, sit up, on your side. And if they know all these and they can do all this stuff without any hand signals whatsoever, body movement, then I know they really understand the words. Now I can start teaching them the workaway. And because you don't ever want to correct your dog from behind your dog. Because if you do that, your dog will constantly, if he has any problems, any confusion, he'll
Yeah.
start looking back at you. You don't want that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So I've used it in films, and it's amazing. We don't use it all the time, but it really is cool if you can shoot from directly behind the dog onto the actor and have the dog do everything to the actor. Because in the beginning, I'll put a bite of food in a pan or something, and I'll have the dog work to it and I'll be behind him. Then once you get then you can do that with an actor. You just let the dog know that the actor has a bite of food in his pocket, and he'll feed him every once in a while, and then you can work him. And it's the dog is working directly to the actor, and it's a fantastic look.
Well, I have a couple questions. How high is that table that you have where you train the dog? How high is it compared to you?
I would say probably waist high for me, and I'm 5'8",
Okay.
so
Okay.
a
So
little
a
bit
couple, like 3 feet maybe.
yeah. It's
Okay.
when you're training puppies and you get down, you're always on your knees and you're doing,
Oh,
so if you just put them up on a big table, then you can sit, lie down on your side. You can do all that stuff, and you're not killing your knees.
and then I know that I'm friends with Omar Van Mueller, and he does that too. And one of the first things that he said was like, "Okay, now show me that away from Like a lot of people are, especially dog trainers, the dogs are used to being right next to us, and the luring, where they're always luring the dog, and it's actually, it's we call it classical conditioning, where we're teaching the dog, but with that lure needs to go away pretty quick, man. Otherwise that dog is relying on these cues that might inhibit um, that work away, right? And so and rewarding that dog too, I know that there's like he'll take a long pole sometimes and reward the dog up in front of his face,
Oh, yeah,
and you say that you'll reward the dog by having the dog go to the treat, right? And
right.
then do you also, like I am kind of viewing it like a clock face, right? Where I'm standing at the in front of the dog. I'll call it 12 o'clock, right? Dog is
Hmm.
facing me at 12 o'clock.
Hmm.
And then once the dog, you're doing the sit down
Right.
side, and then I can tell what I would do to start establishing the workaways. Maybe go to the 3 o'clock.
No,
No? Okay.
no,
And
not
then,
on, no, because you want to, you're going to have to transition around that way, and to me it's a big waste of time.
okay.
Start where you need to be. The dog knows the cues, and what I will start once I feel the dog knows the vocal commands, then I'll put some food out where I want, and with the leash on them, I'll say, go on, good, good, okay, let him get the food, bring him back, go on. And then I teach him front. Front means to look frontwards. So if I ever get into any trouble at all, it's front, good. Okay, now sit, lie down. There's no reason to start that, just go from 6 to,
Okay.
you're at 6 o'clock and your dog is at 12. And what if your dog gets confused? Say you're saying sit up, and your dog's not doing it, just sitting there, and you can tell that the dog's starting to get a little confused. And at that point, that's a good time where they might look back, or a trainer may go sit up, and that might be too loud, and the dog may. So what I do when I see a little confusion, I just walk way around the dog, come around to the front, and I'll give them the hand signal and tell them, okay, sit up, sit up. Okay,
Awesome.
and then I'll let them go get the food. And the only release I have is okay,
Okay.
nothing else. I There's a lot of times I'll be working my dog on a set, and a lot of times they have to be there for all this, yakking that the actors do, and they'll have to either lie there all the time or whatever. So whenever I get the chance, I'll say, "Hey, that's a good boy. That's a good stay. That's a good lie down. That's a very good stay." And what I'm doing, I'm giving the dog confidence that he doesn't have to do anything else. But the good boy and all that good stuff I say is never released. I'm just letting you know you're doing a really good job. Just stay right where you are. Don't worry about anything. Don't think you have to do something. I will let you know if you have to do something. But right now, you're being a really good boy. You're just staying right where I want. That's a good boy. Okay. Now, a lot of people won't do that because they don't want to talk to the dog. Well, I want them to have confidence. I want them to know that everything's good. You don't have to worry about it. And on a
Yeah.
film set, there's a lot of confusion.
Well, it's reassurance, right? And that's
Yes.
that's that's that's
Yeah.
huge for that dog. And not only that, but you can see, just like you said, the little steps, the little nuances of, like, I'm unsure what to do, and so we show them what to do. But also when they're relaxing and they're just kind of just being present, and you're like, good boy, and they look at you like, oh wow, I did something nice, I did something that I was supposed to do, and you're like, yeah, absolutely, buddy, good job, I'm very proud of you. And that's that reassurance that uh it just shows the bond. But also, like, I tell people, like, I don't need to always touch a dog to praise them. I don't always need to pet or anything. I could just look at them, give them my attention. There's my dog right there, and I'm honest about it, man. Like, I'm projecting like a proud type of energy on that dog. Like, that's my dog. I love this. I love exactly what you're doing, right?
And you
Keep it
don't
up.
always have to give them food. I was
Yeah.
my one really good border Aussie mix was on a TV show, and um, in one of the episodes he gets killed, and the two little boys that had the dog, the dog is covered in a blanket on the ground on his side, and on camera the little boy pull the blanket back and kind of cry and pet the dog and all that stuff, and he's dead, right? And then they cover him back up, and when they would cut, I would sick my dog up on the blanket, and he'd play him, and he died. And one of the crew guys, after about the third take, one of the crew guys came up and said, "Well, how come you're not rewarding your dog?" And I said, "Do you see him playing with that blanket? He's having a lot more fun than if I just gave him a bite of food. That
Yeah.
means a lot more to him to play." So food is a reward, play is a reward, good boy, pet, love, all those things are good rewards, and that's something that you need to understand. You don't, like I said, there's many times I've worked my dog with a ball or a rag or a toy, anything, anything they like. If Because some dogs aren't that happy with food, they'd be more happy with a tennis ball. Not a problem. Okay, you sit and lie down and do all this stuff for me. We're going to play, and that's what I do.
Well, some dogs, especially when they're a long time of being stagnant, having that release of being able to move around a lot and use that mouth, right, is a great steam vent for them, right?
Oh,
It
he,
just
he loved it, and I could, I mean, and the thing with the dogs that I have, I didn't have kennels. Like he was my dog, and he slept with me, and we played, and we worked together. And he was not just my pet dog; he was my buddy. He was my working partner. And when you lose that, it hurts. I mean,
mm,
it really hurts. And I one of the reasons I got so heavy into doing stunts and things. Um, I after my last dog had to be put down, I said, "I'm not doing this thing. I can't take this,"
oh,
and I quit. I didn't have a dog for, I don't know, 15, no, maybe 10, 15 years, something like that.
really? Wow.
Yeah, I just couldn't take it anymore. And when I get hurt on a film set, it's not a big deal. You just take some Advils and some ice and you fix it. When your dog gets hurt or he's sick or something like that, you still have to work him. You just feel like crap. You don't want to do it. So, but now I got my border collie, and I probably give him way too much love because he's all I got.
Yeah, guilty, man. That's what I tell people, like, I'm guilty, I understand exactly what you're doing. Now, this dog that you're talking about, was that Casey or
Well, the other one was Casey. The dog that I have now is his name is Joey, and he's a purebred border collie.
yeah, the 14-month-old.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
mhm.
border collies, to me, I love border collies. They have their unique dispositions. They're very smart, and they're very active and sensitive, and you have to be careful. They're the um, they're like the cockatoos of the bird world to me. Excuse me. They're just very, very smart.
Yeah, sometimes too smart, and sometimes it's people just don't know what they're getting into, when they get these dogs because they can be high maintenance, really drive you. Where did you get this dog at? And, um, were you were you, how did you select this dog? Was there any temperament type of test that you did? Why did you select Joey? Did you have the breeder do it for you, or
No, I got two of them. One for me and one for my brother. My brother's another Vietnam vet, and he's a little older than I am. And he had lost his dog. He had an Australian Shepherd, and at that point in my life, I've got a great T-shirt, and on the back it says, "When in my darkest hour, when I needed a hand, I found a paw." And to me, that meant a lot. And I was in, I was really hurting. a little over a year ago. I mean, really hurting. And when I got my dog, he basically saved my life. And I can't say too much about that. I get emotional.
Yeah, isn't it crazy how it hits us to our core,
It does.
Well, and it sucks when we lose that dog, man. I know exactly what you're feeling, and not only that, but it sounds like the physical pain of being a stuntman was kind of a coping mechanism to deal with the emotional pain too.
Yeah. I guess. I mean, I love that. I love the stunt world because it reminded me of in Vietnam, because the camaraderie was really good, and the little communities, the stunt communities on the set, there was a lot of camaraderie. It was really fun, and you stuck together. So that was one of the reasons that I really liked it. A lot of people go, "Oh, you're an adrenaline junkie," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." But I did like the work. I love um, the falling down and the fighting, and the fire burns. That kind of stuff wasn't as much fun because they usually did that in the wintertime, and you put on all these layers of Nomex that are freezing cold. And you can't wait before they light you. It's like, hurry up, light me! I'm freezing to death. But
My goodness.
yeah, it was. But there was a lot of okay. There was a lot of similarities between the stunt world and the animal world as far as film work went, because you were one of those entities that usually aren't there all the time on a set. Oh, you got a guy bringing in a dog. Oh, we got a high fall to do, something like that. So it was kind of similar in the way, but the emotions that I had with losing my last dog really hit me hard, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And now I'm so happy with this dog of mine, and he's just my buddy. I don't do a whole lot of things without him.
Well, and you're doing this thing. Do you take him to the classes that you do with Joel? And how did you meet?
Yeah.
How did you meet Joel? And what how did that transpire? And how did you guys start these classes? And the people that don't know, I'll put up a link to the classes that you guys are offering. And yeah, how did that go about? How did you meet Joel?
Yeah, I met him in jail. He was at not kidding.
You guys were the head of the unit. You guys were running it.
He was my cellmate. No, he came up to well, he used to. He was he was working at SeaWorld, and he left there and came to Universal, and then went back to SeaWorld, and then came back to Universal. And he started learning the how to train domestics, as opposed to killer whales and dolphins and all that stuff. And he started when he came up to Universal. That's when we became really good friends, and we've been tight ever since. So that I think, and I forget when he started up there. He can tell you better than that, better than I can. I barely remember when I started up there.
Well, do you know what? Speaking of the devil, can you hear us, Joe? Oh wait, Joe, we can't hear you for some reason.
Well, that's not a bad thing.
Let's talk about him.
Yeah, we can say everything we want, and he can't respond.
I know. Let's do that. So we'll wait for Joel to get his audio fixed, and then. But yeah, Joel, and so you and Joel run a class where you teach people how to do this stuff, how to work dogs.
Yeah, and we teach them all about the film industry. We teach them about the set etiquette, who the director is, all that stuff.
There you go. Okay,
oh, there you go.
There, now we can hear you. So welcome, Joel.
Thank you.
Yeah,
hey, Joel.
Man. Joel, Brian, Joel. I don't know if you guys know.
You haven't been listening to any of this stuff, have you?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Well, first, Joel, I want to tell you, man, we were talking about, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you're doing with the special needs kids and how cool that is. Brian and I were talking about how wonderful we think that is. So, and you just finished that yesterday, right?
Yeah, I just flew back from Wichita yesterday, and actually, yeah, no, I've always wanted to do this, and because I really believe that, I break behaviors down into small steps, and that's I've learned through my certification courses after going into different cities that the biggest mistake I think a lot of dog trainers make is not, is taking for granted people are smarter than they really are to train and stuff, and people need help, and so I just broke a thing into small steps. So I said to myself, well, if I could, break these behaviors into small steps for everybody, I mean, why couldn't special needs learn it? Because and special needs, I mean, they vary greatly in what they comprehend and things like that. So I did it, and I just did this thing, and I met this girl first of all about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Her name was Hannah. I flew in and just kind of worked with her a little bit, and then they brought 3 more in, and it was just incredible. As a matter of fact, the stuff that's uploaded on my website and the Facebook page, that was from day 1. And then I have day 3 that I'm editing. I have now. I was flying in. I was editing as I was flying in, and I mean, it's like it is amazing, and I've just done all these wonderful things in my life, and it was just like this little girl's dad is there. This girl Hannah, her dad was there on the first 2 days, and really cool guy. His name's Ted, and he goes, and I mean, halfway through the first day, I was just like, I said, am I crazy? I said, this is like, I mean, I can't believe. He goes, you're not crazy. And I'm like, this is just incredible, and really, really cool. Just very, very neat, So, the goal is to basically create a nation of special needs dog trainers. And so that's really what the goal is. And it's just one step at a time, and finding ones that want to help me teach others. And then we go out and teach others. And, over the course of time, they spend more time teaching, and they spend more time teaching, and we just get them involved. And before you know it, you have special needs teaching special needs, which it would be very, very cool, and then as far as dog training goes, I would tell and I know a lot of dog trainers that are watching this right now. What I say to you is that if you're employing 6 to 8 dog trainers, and we know that these special needs are only obviously they're working with sit, stay, lie down, come, heel, go to a place. The behaviors are not dealing problem solving stuff. But if you knew you had somebody who's like clockwork, man, you give them a dog, it's like you train the dog to sit, stay, lie down, come, heel, go to a place, and you pay, a part-time basis or whatever. I mean, that would be really, really cool. And I think that's kind of like the mentality. And that is, if you can just, give them the dogs, a couple dogs, and they work the dogs for a couple hours, and I mean, and they'll get a lot of stuff done. They know what to do, and stuff. So that's kind of the mentality of this thing.
Well, Brian was talking about when he first started working, he worked with that bird named Tuffy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then he told the bird to give me some love, right? And the bird walked up his arm, laid his head on his shoulder, and the empowerment that he felt, like, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness. Like, do you see that?
Oh,
Do
heck
you
yeah.
see
No, I absolutely do. But you know what's weird, you guys, is that I was telling everybody about that. I post this on Facebook too. And that is, I told my wife, I'm like, they have, like, when I teach people and they go through my courses and stuff like that, and even when they come to our events, and stuff, and Larry and Jay will tell you the same thing, people, and I know it's because it's in front of all the people, but, people get nervous, and stuff, and people are afraid a lot of times to fail. In the entire time I worked with these 4 people, and they vary, each 4 of them really vary in degree of where they are autistically, but none of them ever had any fear of failing. There's no fear whatsoever of failing, and that was the cool thing. They just did it. They made a mistake. They kind of laugh a little bit, and I'm like, no problem. It's like, just kept, get yourself through it. And John, who there was a guy named John who was the taller, skinnier guy. And he's definitely a little further, a little more behind than those guys and stuff like that, obviously. But John was amazing because John could not get, I kept on saying, sit, this stays, get your hand near your shoulder, and then sit was here, go get your hit in front of you, going like sit. And he kept on going sit and getting back at his shoulder. And it was like, and I was like, no, remember the sit is this, so he did it again with shoulder. And no problem. And every time he did it, it was like, no problem, John. Just, keep doing it. You keep doing it, man. Keep doing it. And it took him like 6 times or 7 times. And all of a sudden it was like, boom, right there. And I said, John, that was huge. I said, because you know what? I'm glad that happened to you. You'll never forget it again. And you will help other people that had a problem with it as well. And so, and he was just great. He just worked right through it, and now we got that sit every time, man. It's like sit, so it was just really, really cool. It's just a great, great story. And this is, this is a really cool thing. I mean, I'm actually talking tomorrow with a big, huge group out of Oklahoma City. And, the reason I'm picking Oklahoma City is because it's very close to Wichita. So we want to create a whole network out there in Kansas City, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Wichita, a big team out there. And then from there, we start really, really expanding outwards. And then Florida, the goal is to basically do it in almost every major city. That's John right there in the green. That's the guy right there. He's a good guy.
How good does that make you feel?
Oh my God.
When you see him do that, I mean, the emotion going through you is like,
I'm seriously, I'm day one. I mean, I had tears in my eyes like doing this thing. It was just like, I've done all these great things in my life, and here I am in this little area with these 4 kids and stuff. And I'm just like, it's so rewarding. And this guy and he's just like, and like that guy is just such a good guy. And this girl here, this is Masha, Masha. It's not Marsha, it's Masha. Her parents, she's from Russia. Her parents died, and she was adopted here. And then both of her parents just died. Like her dad died recently, and her mom just died like a couple of years ago. She has no. And then this is Hannah. She's awesome. Her dad was there. She's really, really super solid. Her and Masha are going to be awesome. Are going to be really, really good. Yeah, those guys are there. But the 2 girls are going to really be good. And Wesley, the other guy, Wesley, the African American guy, he's good actually. And his mom was there at the end, and he is the second day yesterday. He really kicked in nicely. He's very mellow, very laid back. And she said he already started working with their dogs. So, Wesley may very well be good too. So
what kind of reaction do you get from the parents and stuff?
Oh my gosh, they're so appreciative. I mean, her dad, Hannah's dad, Ted, he was there the first 2 days, and Ted was just like blown away. But I just, in the future, like the people I'm talking to Oklahoma City, there's a woman I'll be speaking with tomorrow. Her son is 16 years old. He's autistic. And so he would probably that's actually Wesley. He's cool. And she's, and she would be a huge part of it, because she's going to, she's involved with a place called Wings OKC. That's the name of the place, Wings. And this woman, and plus her son is autistic, and then she'll be there at this event every day. So you just need people to be there, man, and just watch it. I tell people all the time, I just am like, I was getting to that in the future, when we do these things, their parents or family or somebody needs to be there at this and watch this thing, because it will blow them away, And she's great. This girl Masha is awesome. So that girl Masha, she works at a animal shelter. It's a county shelter. It's a kill shelter, So she sees a lot of the bad stuff, and she's just handles the dogs. That's all she does, is handle dogs. She works at a bird store as well. And she's engaged. She's living with a guy right now. She's engaged to be married, and she's got a ring on and stuff. And this girl is great. Masha's awesome, man. She's great. Yeah, those 2 girls are cool. Yeah, so it's great, you guys. It's great. It just absolutely blows you away, man. It's just like, blows you away.
Well, I think that this is like, there's so many different facets of the dog world. And as I was talking with Bryan earlier, the dogs reach every corner of the human existence, and our experience with them can empower us, can change our perspective on life. And not just for people with maybe some special needs, to show them something that they'd never thought they were capable of doing, but also the parents and the people that look, and you can literally see them shine, man. You can see them. Oh my goodness. And
yeah, wait till you see what I did yesterday. I mean, because yesterday was the last day. That was the very first day, and I didn't shoot the second day, but I shot yesterday. But you're absolutely correct. And the coolest thing about it is, like, there's 3 different things that are going to come out of this. And I tell people all the time, it's like, they're going to get a certificate. The certificate, basically, it's just like any one of my dog training. My certificate on my course basically says they worked with me. They understand all of the steps to these behaviors, and that's what I signed off. I didn't sign off that they're a great trainer. I didn't sign off that they're, and what I encourage everybody to do, just like them. And I told them the same thing. You need to train dogs. you will get better if you train dogs. If you do nothing, you're not going to be a dog trainer. But if you just go and train dogs and friends and family's dogs, you don't charge them money. You just basically get the experience and get the stuff. I said, you do the same thing with 4 or 5 dogs. I said, the same thing we did here with 4 or 5, and you guys all could do it, then you could start, training dogs, slowly start, work training dogs. And I said, because, but that's the important thing. So if they do nothing more than just go and help people and their friends and family train dogs. I mean, here you have the special needs person who's teaching all these people, giving them something, a knowledge of something they don't know, which is really, really cool. So if that's the only thing that comes out of this thing, that's cool. But if it happens to where they start training dogs and they want to be a dog trainer on a part-time basis, and a dog daycare place wants to call them up and say, hey, listen, we're just going to pay an hourly basis to work with dogs and stuff, and then they end up doing great. That's beautiful too. And then if the other way is if they start training dogs, and they start working with me a little bit, start traveling with me to other places and teaching other people. That's really the main goal, stuff like that. So 3 things that can happen out of this. So if nothing else, it's just, good knowledge and teaching other people.
Well, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's just really great. It's really, really cool.
Yeah,
yeah.
If there's anything I can do to help, let me know.
Oh, I appreciate that. No, I appreciate that. It's just actually getting this word out and letting people know what's going on is really, really great. And I was going to say, yeah, so we're starting. I live in Fort Myers, obviously. So we're starting in Florida, and we're going to go. And there's a lot of people that are interested. We're starting with a couple of groups here in Fort Myers, but there's a couple of groups that are actually, they've got their kind of tentacles in like 12 different cities. So I'm really going after those groups because, once that happens, you have access to all of Florida basically. So you create a team in Florida, and, if we can get 10 to 12 really awesome trainers here, their special needs. Now we start going now out to Georgia and start really expanding out that way. And it's the same thing with those guys in the Midwest. We start expanding out in that way.
Well, and I want to talk about what you two are doing together as well. Your dog training for film and TV course.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys you just finished one, right?
Yeah, we just did one in Dallas. We just did one in Dallas, and we've done 2. We've done 2 in Maryland. That's kind of our East Coast location. Okay. And then we've done one in San Jose. That was a great location. That's kind of our west location. And then we did another one in we just did one initially in
that's my dog.
Indianapolis. Huh?
Oh, that's him, huh?
That's my border.
We were just talking about him.
That was in was that Maryland, Brian? That was Maryland.
Huh?
Was that Maryland? Yeah, that was Maryland. Yeah. So we did Maryland, and so that's the place. That's kind of our main location there. And then we've got these 3 of these set up now for later on this year. We're going back to Maryland, which Maryland will be it'll be March of next year, but that's still, the tickets are still there. You can see. And then we have the west location, which would be San Jose, and that's going to be happening. I can't see what that says. It's November, I believe. And then we have the Midwest. We have a big group in Ohio, Southern Ohio, in the Dayton area. And so we've got about, I think 4 or 5 people already signed up for that one. And that's going to be in October, and it'll be in Dayton. We don't have the location yet, but we'll get a location for that one.
I think I might go to this one.
There's 2 girls that came to our very first one and they've done, how many have they done, like a couple features and commercials now already?
Are you talking about the girls in the Maryland one?
Yeah.
Kelly and Katie, they're these 2 girls. If you can go to our we have a group page on Facebook, Dog Training for Children. We have a group page. Anybody could join, and you'll see people post all the stuff that they do. So Brian was saying we have these 2 girls, Kelly and Katie, and they work together, and they've got dogs, and they work a lot. I mean, one just came off a big feature with the actress she was working with or whatever, but yeah, it's like, and we just give people, it's not just, it's a workshop on training for film and TV, but people will tell you to go through our course. So like, you don't even have to be a trainer looking to do film and TV, because Brian and I, we just have a different style. We don't shape, like everybody says, talk about free shaping. Like, we don't free shaping. That's not our vocabulary. It's not something we've ever done before. We break behaviors into steps and train behaviors. That's what we've always done. We give a dog direction, we show a dog what to do, and we just move from there. So we don't do any of that stuff at all. We've never done free shape. I've been doing this almost my whole life, and we don't do that at all. And it's not a knock on it. It's just the fact that we don't do it because it's just a style that we have, that we do. So so it's pretty cool. It's pretty neat. Look at that dog, is great.
It's a beard. Well, I think the free shaping too gets the dog to know, hey, look, some of this is up to me, where you want it very nuanced, and this is very specific activity that I'm asking for you, because this is money that we're talking about. We're rolling out the film is time, and any second that goes by is a huge amount of money that is expended, because we have a crew there, we have the equipment, we have the time that everybody takes. So the more effective and efficient we can specifically get the behavior from this animal, the better. And
and the training of it too, that really is what and this is what lies, and this is what I learned through teaching my courses in the last 7 years, and that is the play dead. For example, if you were to watch me teach the play dead in all the other videos I did, like the Hollywood Dog Training Program, or Good Dog You, or What Color Is Your Dog, that my other TV series, or even my books, okay, prior to 7 years ago, what you would have seen was, to be like, okay, put the food over here on the side. Okay, as you rotate, as you go over here, just take the food here, move it this way. And we do these really, we would do really super small steps and things like that. But in the last 7 years, what I learned to do is I learned about the physics, the mechanics of the dog, and the way the dog is. And so what we do now is I take the food, put on a right angle here, watch the dog's hip, and then as you move the head over this way, the hips are going to rotate. The hips can't go on its side till it rotates, so we break it down that specific, where it's like the hips rotate, stay, reward, move that way. That's the first step. Cool. And we just move the food. Now we move the food around a little bit more. And what a lot of people try to do is they're like, okay, the food is around, the dog is halfway on its side, so let's try to get down its side. It's like, no, because that's, Bryan and I will tell you, as soon as you do that, you ruin all the trust, and the trust goes away. It's got to take it really, really super slow. And it's got to be the dog's choice to actually start to move on its side, but we're still rotating the food around. We bring it here, and then we arc it back. We take the food here and we arc it back down, just like this way. So, I mean, there's a real technique to training your dog to play dead, to go on its side. Eventually this becomes the cue. And then, for movies and commercials, if you see my hand, it's here, we get the hand way out to the side here.
Here, I'll do.
Yeah. So it's on your side, just like this. And we tell people, if your hand everybody wants to help the dog out. And when they go like this and your hand goes like this and cross the body, you're done. The dog's not going to do it. It's got to be here on the side, and then let the food take the hand, just maybe touch the side of the dog's face on your side. Good. And on your side, like this actually is a great way of showing you guys actually the way you have it set up. So it's on your side, on your side, on your side. And then this becomes the cue, on your side, like that. But a lot of people want to just go like this and cross. But once you cross the middle of your body, it's done. Dog's not going to do it at all. So we teach it, that's kind of like the how we we do. But it's a great course for anybody that just wants to learn a different style, and stuff like that. So,
well, it's like I told Joel in the beginning, when I started doing this with Joel, Joel breaks it, like he was saying, he breaks it down into itty bitty little pieces, the behavior, and I don't do that. So I had to learn a lot from Joel, how to do that. Because I've been training for a long time, but I just do my thing, and I don't break it down.
And I told Bryan, I said, Bryan, you don't need, like most dog trainers, that are really good. And there's some dog trainers that train play dead and stuff like that, but they can't teach somebody how to train a dog to play dead, because he could do it. Bryan could do it and everything like that. But as far as actually showing somebody how to do it, it's really hard, because being a dog trainer, the average public is not like us. And I tell people all the time, I've said it like my whole life. Since I've been on the road and do these things, and, especially the appearances, the general public is not like us. Okay. You get it. You understand. You're a dog trainer, and the people we're speaking with right now, they can get it. But the public, they can't get their dog to sit. You can't get their dog to sit and stay. It's like they need help with that. So if they can't get that, they certainly are not going to get this without like a lot of help, and stuff. So.
Well, that's what I was telling Bryan, is like the majority of people that watch this are people that work with dogs in a way, like professionals in some capacity, because I've had some of my clients, they were like, oh yeah, I watched one of your podcasts, one of your live streams, and it just went way over my head. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's just the way that they just don't think, and they just think differently. And so how, as a pet dog trainer, it's my job to figure out how they think.
It is. And the one thing that I would tell somebody too is to watch, is to have that dog really, really learn to focus on you and understand what you're doing. When I shot Brian, I filmed a bunch of stuff with Brian with it's on Facebook, and I'm going to put some of that on our website as well. And it's the one where he's doing the head up, head down. It's the head up, head down with that duck toller, and then also, what else did you do with her? You did something else with her. When you watch Brian work the dog, the focus on the dog, the focus is on Brian, but his mannerisms are like head down, head. It's not head up, head down. It's not. He's not trying to. It's just everything is just really monotone, and we're not trying to. The dog is already excited into the food and stuff like that. We just want the dog to stay focused. And the problem that I see with a lot of people is they try so hard to like work a dog, get the dog so excited, but when you get excited, they start panting. They lose focus of really, really what you're asking them to do. But I really encourage people to, when they look at, they go to my Facebook page, kind of scroll down, because it was from like last week, whatever, when we were in Dallas, or 2 weeks ago, whatever. But it was a really cool video. But it's like, on Brian's head down, stay, head up, stay. And it's just, and we throw that stay in there as really honestly as intermittent marker. And Jay, in one of our events, Jay, I think a couple of years ago, Jay's like, that's really an intermittent marker. And where we just basically, it's the same thing. It's nothing more than a good, but it's just basically, let's know. It's like, hey, did it stay? Very, very good. And dog's like, okay, might get a reward, may or not, may or not get a reward for it.
Is it on this page here?
It's on this page. Yeah. If you scroll down, keep scrolling down. Yeah. It's from, that was, just keep going a little further. There's Brian filming. Let's go a little further down, a little further. Yeah. Keep going. That's okay. Now here's another one. This is the retrieve. Now watch Brian. And basically, it's just everything is really, really super monotone. Again, he's working the dog, but he will not let the dog drop this object. The dog's going to come to him, and you'll hear him say, "Stay, stay." But again, he's not. He's just. If you look and see, just
love it.
And that's the idea. And then scroll down a little bit further. Now, if you go down further, you'll see that.
Okay. Just 1 second there. Let me figure out how to. Go back to cut this out now. Okay, and then
scroll down a little bit further. Okay, that one. This is the one.
Love it.
It's just really. I mean, that dog has gotten. He starts talking to her a little bit and explains really what he's doing and stuff. But but that's what we do. We just love teaching people. We have a passion to teach. Brian has always been. I told Brian before. I've told him for many years. Brian was a great teacher because back when I was at Universal Studios, I was 20 years old, 21. Steve was 21. Joe was 21 or 22. So we were all fairly young, and Brian was like 10 years older than us. But he taught everybody, and he was very good about it because he was very patient with people. But he's very, very black and white. It wasn't like Brian didn't try to make it really, really nice. If you screwed up, it's like, no, you did this wrong, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't like he was a jerk about it, but he was like, hey, you did it wrong. This is the way you do it. And this is the way he still is just letting people know and just giving that direction, and it's just really, really cool. So that's a great video to show. And I just have a lot of times when Brian's doing working the dog, I'll just film some stuff. And that was just one of the things I wanted to do. That's just a small example of.
What were you helping this dog out? You were just doing the head down, right, Brian? Is that
head up? Yeah.
Yeah, we train it both at the same time. So we throw a stay in there. And so again, with that head up, and a lot of times they're like, well, why do you train to stay? Well, that's why you train to stay, is you train the stay to have that control, because it's letting the dog know, so you need to stay there because we don't want you to put your head down. This is a good one. This is actually going around this pole, and then it's going to go to the person, a go to, that's a behavior, and then go with, and it's like the dog's trained to go with. It's just that's a heel with no leash at all. And that's we can train that for movies and commercials. That dog should be able to, 30, 20 feet away, just stay with her, and stuff like that. But I mean, to be blind like that, if you want to play, to come in, around that pole blind, go to the person. So it might just want the dog to go to the person, which is fine, but then to go do the go to and then the go with. So they might cut, maybe a dog has a toy, brings it to the person, takes the toy, and that's done. But then sometimes they might want to just continue like this. That's why we train a chain of a lot of things, you know, and just give, you know, really challenge those guys. This dog was great. This girl's name is Brooke. She's Larry actually knows her, and Larry had told me she had signed up for this thing, and Larry said she was really awesome, and she's a really, really wonderful trainer. Her dog is amazing. She's just, you know, everything she does is just, you know, really, really awesome. She was great to work with, right, Brian?
What was funny is when Joel and I got there before we started the class, when we got there on Sunday, we walked into the room and said, "Wow, this room's a little small and stuff." And then we both looked at that post at the same time and went, "Oh, this is going to be really cool."
Yeah, that post so much.
One has to learn to go around something to get to the person, not to go straight across, right?
It was so cool.
And you didn't know how to train that, and it was so cool.
Yeah. We improvised a lot. That was actually really, really nice, you know. But the people, really, really good people that were there. All the people were awesome. But Brooke, like I said, she just came off a job with that. It was it's like a Purina. It was a commercial. She's in the commercial with her dog, and as well. And it's for I forgot what it was, but anyway, she's really, really cool.
It was for a home building store or something, wasn't it? Like Lowe's or
something. It was like some sort of something like that. It was great. Yeah, we do a lot of multiple dog stuff together, you know, and stuff. They're all head downs and stuff, which is really cool. It's great.
Well, and this would be an aspect like when you and I were talking, Joel. Oh, actually, that's actually a better one.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I like being on top.
We had a blast and learned so much. Sprinkles and I say hello from Dallas. Love that name, Sprinkles.
Rachel's great. She's awesome. Yeah, Sprinkles.
Sprinkles.
She has this golden doodle, and it's funny. It's really funny, Bill, because what happens? She says sit, and the dog gets all excited, and what the dog does, it almost like sucks back into its body, and it gets like the dog gets like it kind of drops its head down a little bit, and it just sucks in, and it gets really excited. It looks like it just like shrinks like 4 inches or something like that. It's hilarious.
Interesting. Well, and I put up a link, you guys, just so you know, in the comment section to the group. And then I also put a link to joelsilverman.com or .net, excuse me, Animal Strain for Film and TV. And if you go to his website, Joel's website, you'll see, here, I'll post this up here. Well, this is how I'll go back just a little bit.
Bill, you're in Washington State?
Yeah, Seattle, just north of Seattle, about 45 miles.
San Jose one, because that San Jose one is actually, that's a pretty good one. That's as well. I mean, if you're going to be in that area, if you're in that area, but, the San Jose one we have a lot of good, really, really good people at that one too. So,
well, I think that I'm going to go to the Dayton one.
Dayton one?
Yeah, because I have some friends in Dayton as well. I might go to both of them. I mean, you guys, $1,200 for 5 days. Are you kidding me? You know, that by itself, I mean, it's less than $200 a day to work with some of the best dog trainers in the world, in my opinion. Like that to me is such a deal. I mean, you got to remember, this is a 5-day course.
Yeah, exactly. And
so
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
And $600 for an audit. Come on, man. That's something that, I mean, I would want to bring my dog. I would want to bring one of my skipper keys. I have a skipper key that's just cool. Yeah, and I've been doing some presentations with elementary schools, and you and I spoke about this a little bit yesterday, Joel. But those little kids, man, they're so. I mean, I'm not going to do for middle school and up anymore because it's just too much.
So cool. That is so neat.
Yeah, but yeah, this is and my skipper key did so well. I had to go get him some steak afterwards. Her ears flap, so I think she's talking about Sprinkles.
Yeah,
when she sits, her ears flap.
Yeah,
like that.
Exactly. Oh yeah, she's funny.
Well, and you know, this is what's so cool about what you guys do is that this, like when you go with Jay and Larry, right? The other thing that you do, Joel,
which will be in Denver. That's coming up in like 3 weeks in Denver. Yeah.
Can you see my dog's tail wagging on when I look down at her? See her, like she's sitting right.
Pay no attention to that dog behind the curtain.
I know. Yeah, pay no attention. You're killing me. But what's so cool about what you and Bryan do, Joel, is this is not necessarily for behavior rehabilitation. This is not for problem regression or any of that stuff, understanding your dog. This is like taking the relationship that you have with your dog to the next level, and actually being a commodity for film. And people, I've done commercials with my dogs,
Mhm.
right? Because I've done and not only that, but I was a consultant for some commercials with these dogs. And funny story, you guys, is so we did a commercial where the dogs would bark on camera to sing the UW fight song. Let me see if I can find the commercial that I did. And the marketing company, and so there's a marketing DNA ad agency, um, hired me to be the consultant to manage the dogs, and they did an open casting call
Really?
to the city of Seattle. And I'm not going to play the sound because I don't want to get. Hopefully, we won't get dinged for any copyright or anything. But here's the commercial itself, you guys, where I had to be behind the camera, and they're singing the UW fight song, and it's for the BECU, which is Boeing Employee Credit Union commercial. These are all my dogs here, and it's so cool to see your dog.
That's good.
Like these dogs are in heaven now,
That's
right?
great.
And so I'm behind the camera getting these dogs to bark, and those are my dogs right there.
That's great.
That's
And
great, man.
yeah, and we won a drum award or something, marketing award for it, and there's my boy right there. But it was so cool to have this experience, but you become a commodity not just with your dog, but with your knowledge to help out ad agencies and getting these dogs to bark. And you might not be able to tell. I mean, you can with some dogs, but I walked over. We had an open casting call, and we had like 72 people show up with their dogs. And I walk over to the crowd of dogs because in the casting call, they were talking about, hey, we need your dog to be able to bark on camera. And so I go over to this whole crowd of people, and I'm like, whose dog can bark on cue? Two people. And I'm like, okay, you two are first. And then the rest of the dogs, I had to figure out how to get them to bark on camera.
That's great. That's so cool.
So that, I mean, there's benefits if you're a professional. And like I was telling Bryan earlier, like there's so many facets of the dog world.
Mhm.
And
Oh yeah,
this is one of them.
it's really really cool. And then, as I said, we would love to. We just like teaching people. It's the same thing, with Larry and Jay and I. I mean, we really. I mean, um, we all have a passion to teach. We all like to help people. I think the older you get, and I'm I think Larry and Jay are like in the 51, 52-ish or something like that. I'm 65. I'm a lot older than those guys. But I think what happens, I tell them all the time. I'm like, when you get to be my age, you're going to have more of a passion to teach. You just want to share it with people. I think that's the bottom line. It's like, hey, I'm 65. I don't know
Well,
if I'll be
Joel and I don't. We don't have big egos. There are some dog trainers out there that have a bit of an ego. We don't.
yeah,
We're more than happy. Hey, I'm being very nice now. Uh, but we don't have that problem. We love. We will teach and tell every story, every problem, every little problem that we got out of, and here's how we got out of it. We will tell everything. We don't care. Like I said, we're not withholding everything or anything. We will tell everything that we've done and all the problems. And a lot of times when Joel is talking during the class, and it'll make me think of a story, I'll butt in and give them a story that, okay, this happened to me on the set. This is how I got out of it. So if you ever are on the set and this same kind of problem happens, I'm hoping that you'll remember, oh yeah, Bryan said this is how he got out of it. And
yeah, exactly.
So
yeah,
like I said, we don't have big egos. We love what we're doing.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Larry and Jay. It's the same thing. All three of us. We always go into everything. We always go into our events just basically saying, "Hey, this is what we do." And it's like, if this works for you, great. If there's something the other guy is saying that makes sense, that's great. I mean, no egos whatsoever, and that's why I love doing what I do with all three of these guys. Because it's just it's really really cool, and we share with people, and people see it. I think people really appreciate it too. They appreciate the fact that you're out there to help them.
Well, and it's a different world in the film world too. Like, and that's what people need to realize is like there's a whole set of jargon. There's you're walking into um a situation where you need to know who's who because there's people that are just standing there that are just like they're like, I don't know what you go ask the wrong person.
No, that's what we do. We do a whole PowerPoint presentation the first 3 days. It's about a 45-minute presentation. It goes in lights, sights and sounds, like lights, camera, action, like who these people are, who's the AD, who's the director, why is it important. We go through this whole thing, and like Bryan was saying, he says because we've done this course a lot of times, and we've just kind of figured it's stuff that we need to get through. We certainly want to get to the training stuff of it, training part of it, the practical part of it, but you got to let people know that stuff. I mean. And one thing I was going to tell you too, real briefly, and that is, we talked about we were talking about our training techniques and why they're different. I've said this in the events I do with Larry and Jay, because the events I do with Larry and Jay, most people gravitate towards their style of training because they're dealing with problem solving stuff. I adopt dogs from animal shelters and train them for movies and commercials. Okay. People can say whether I'm a good trainer, bad trainer, whatever. One thing that I know that I'm good at, and that is getting dogs from animal shelters and putting them on TV and training them. I mean, I pick out really good dogs, and I've had some really great dogs. But because we're looking for the perfect dog. We're looking with a dog with no problem solving issues. We're looking with a dog has a really, really good personality, likes traits, maybe a good prey drive and stuff like that. But that's what we're looking for. So we're starting with an animal with no behavioral issues at all, where the dogs that most people that come to the event with Larry and Jay are starting with a different dog, because and it makes sense that the technique is going to be different. That's the whole point. And that's what makes what we do even better, because you're able to see a lot of different styles, a lot of different things, as well.
Yeah, we just had a comment here from Trish, you guys. Hi,
Cool.
guys. Oh, look, she's got you in her in her profile picture. What a honor there.
That's a great picture.
Yeah, it is. Can't wait to have Joel and Bryan back in California in November, and I might be down there too. Who knows? I might be coming in November. Still room in the course. Just contact Joel if you want to come. We have a great group of trainers coming back for round 2. I tell people, man, repetition's the mother of learning with these dogs. How many repetitions do we put the dogs through? Bryan, do you do repetitions with your dogs when you're working with them?
Yeah, and it depends. Like I say, all dogs are different. It depends on where we are. There's times when I'll work maybe 10 minutes with the dog and then play for 20 minutes. He got the point across, and he did what I wanted. Let's play. Let's have fun.
Well, in those little moments that we do work with them too, like don't stretch this thing out. Like I remember when I first saw Joel, and this was in Austin, Texas, like in 2010, and he was having the dog put the mail in the mailbox, and we were talking about chaining and back chaining, and just like we were talking about workaway earlier with Bryan, and with Brooke going around that post, would that be an aspect of workaway?
Not necessarily. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was one of my questions that I said workaway.
Workaway really is just, it's really very, very black and white, where the dog is facing away from you and the cues are all from behind. And then the payoff is going to be either a toy or a treat or whatever. So it's all from behind. So, and it's all verbal cues. And, Bryan will tell you, because I learned to do it at Universal back when he had Joey, this dog Joey, this really, really great dog. And the one thing we teach people is like, everybody wants so bad to get going on that behavior. And it's like, if you can't stand with your hands at your crossed here and give the dog all the cues from behind, you give all the cues facing you, verbal cues, and the dog will not lie down, sit, stand, head down. And if they won't do that and you got to help out with your hands, you're not ready for the workaway. You got to make sure it's all verbal from the dog facing you, and then we can get the dog in front away from us. So everybody wants to go very, very fast with that behavior. It's a really, really, it's impressive behavior. And I've been doing a lot with Oliver, my little guy Oliver. He loves it. That's like his favorite thing now. But it takes a lot of time.
And when I went back to Universal to teach Joey all that stuff, I had never seen that before. I had never trained it. I had no idea how to train that. But fortunately, I didn't make any mistakes by correcting Joey from behind, which would have really screwed everything up. that was I was learning along with my dog to do that. I had no idea.
Yeah, and and it's true. And Bill, that behavior when we're training, it's true, 100% positive reinforcement. Even if the dog, for some reason goes after the food or whatever, let him go. Don't go. No, no, no. You can't do anything from behind negatively like that, because if you do, you screw everything up, and it takes you a
I
while.
would look at you right away, right, and be like, "Oh crap."
Yeah, and it's like, just let go. It's a lesson learned. Be like, okay, next time I just won't do that, and stuff. So just, you get whatever, But yeah, we always like to explain to people.
This reminds me. I mean, I know it's not work away because he's working right in front of him, but watch Brian's hands at the beginning. Here, let me, or here in just a second, I believe. But your hands at the beginning, it just kind of reminds me. Oh, of course, it doesn't replay. But here, let's go at the look at your hands, and look at how. Here, hold on, let me see if do I have to hit it to play it again? Hold on, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
But you see how Brian is right now?
Yeah. That's a good neutral position, though. That's a really good, for your hand. Just, it's for people to go. That's a good point, actually. Never really. Yep. Really.
Just see how subtle.
Very neutral. Yep.
Very subtle, and even when he had to correct him just now.
Yep.
Right. But now watch what happens when it's over. Look at that.
Yeah, exactly. But you're absolutely correct, Bill, because everything we do is just very, very keeping the hands right here, very neutral. The more you move around, the more confusing it is. But yeah, you're right. That's a really good point.
A lot of people have problems because first of all, they got their hand in their bait bag and they got a bunch of food, and they got their hand out, and the dog is going, "Well, what do you want me to do?" So if you keeping your hands in like that, there's the dog doesn't anticipate doing what he's supposed to do. If you start having too many hands and hands in your bait bag and all that, it confuses the dog.
No, that's great. That's really, really good.
Yeah,
and then yeah.
Go ahead, Joel.
Oh, I was going to say there's another one, and we did. I mean, you don't have to scroll down, but I just hit on our Facebook page, and I'll try to get that picture. This guy named Jordan, Jordan Lawson. I don't know if you know Jordan, but he's out of Tulsa, and it's from a long time. It was back in San Jose, but he had this Malinois, best Malinois I've ever seen in my life, actually. And Brian was working the Malinois a little bit with him, and really, really, really good stuff. We got some really good stuff with that dog, but it was kind of along the same lines stuff too.
Did you see what he posted on the last thing he posted? He does these things at baseball games. He's got his dog there, and he says, "Hey, this is really cool. Watch this." And he has his dog pick up his iPhone.
Yeah. The bat, you mean?
No. He says, "Here's how, instead of using like a tripod or something, you just use your dog." So he had him pick up the iPhone, so it's like this, and then he cut to the live feed of the iPhone, and it's him. And so the dog is just holding it like that, and he's doing his deal in front of the camera. It was kind of fun.
But his dog's a bat. Does the baseball, the minor league baseball game? He gets a bat as well, right?
And then he swallowed the camera. It was
bad. You kill me. Well, and I had a friend of mine that was just asking me about how to get their dog to be a bat dog, to be a football tee dog, to be, people see this, and you guys, I mean, I'll reach out to her because guess where she lives? Dayton, Ohio.
Oh, nice.
And so she needs to come, and I'll message you when she does. Her name's Megan, and she's definitely somebody that can benefit from this. But the thing is too is that the expanse of knowledge. I am somebody that's always learning, and once you think you got it figured out,
it's true.
It's going to bite you in the butt. You're dead in the water, and there's no finish line, to this. There's no end result. Like, we're always learning from each other and teaching each other. And
that's true.
Yeah. I've been doing this for over 50 years, and I'll tell you, I learned something every time we go to these classes. We do these classes. I'm learning something. So it's incredible. And I would love to work with you and some of the other trainers doing the different things that I don't do, like seeing eye dogs or service dogs or things that I don't train and have never trained. I would love to watch that. I would love to watch I used to do a lot of dog attacks, but I didn't train the dog. I just did the attack. And I would love to watch that kind of stuff too. There's so many aspects of dog training that you'll never really know them all.
Mhm.
I mean, just keep, so maybe sometime I'll get out to you guys and see some like you and watch some of your training, some of your stuff.
Oh, anytime, man. And it's basically like bite work, scent work, obedience. Like that's right there. That's a sport. That's Schutzen. That's IGP, right? And I'm not into that because I'm in the pet dog trainer, but I get certified to learn how to do all this stuff because as a pet dog trainer, like my clients aren't interested in any of this stuff. Just like I said, these podcasts are for people that have the eyes and the ears to hear it because they're passionate about it or they're professional. But now I understand how their dog got to this situation inadvertently, right? Because now I kind of reverse engineer how negative reinforcement, negative punishment, positive punishment work, and how these people are doing it in a way because they love their dog and they treat their dog a lot of times like a person and not understand how that dog's mind works and see the world by proxy through the dog's eyes. And so, and that's why I do these live streams too. And I've done a couple hundred of them, and from dog trainers from the service dog world, from therapy dogs to Hollywood dogs to champion tracking dogs, and every single person, like I learn from them, but I learn more by watching them work dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how many times I've read Scent and the Scenting Dog, and I have to read it over and over and over again because there's so much information in that book. Is what that thick.
Yeah.
There's not many pages, but there's so much information in there about the weather and the wind. And is it raining? Is it damp? Is it dry? Where does the scent go? And it's to me that's really amazing. I would love to be with a trainer who does that and really watch what they do. I would be very interested in that.
Well, and just like Joel was talking about how when you go to the shelters, we're looking for certain aspects of these dogs. And same things when we're bringing up these dogs in the program, once the dog exhibits a behavior that is not what we want, we drop the dog from the program because a lot of it's like we can curate what the dog is. We can't make something that the dog isn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what, as a pet dog trainer, that's the hard part of my job.
Yeah.
Especially when somebody, is having those hard conversations. And I got an 82-year-old person that just adopted a Jindo from Korea, this fighting dog that's attacked her neighbor's dog and put it in the hospital. And I had the conversation with her, like, look, we can do some training with this dog, but in the meantime, I need you to do some soul searching.
Yeah.
Because I need you to know if this is the right dog for you. And we're going to do whatever it takes. But at the end of the day, that might be the outcome that we inadvertently or inevitably come to, is like, look, this dog will never be fulfilled in this house. And what do we do then?
Yeah, exactly. That's a tough part of your guys' job. That's a really tough part.
But that's the importance of, like you were saying, Joel, is to start from the get-go of knowing what you're looking for. And that's why we have people like Bryan and Joel to help you with, these classes that you do. But, and I put up a link to the site with you guys. So guys, check them out. And we're going on 2 hours here talking with Bryan. So I appreciate your guys' time. And I look forward to working with both of you and introducing you to my dog. Now, if we want to go to this class, what are some prerequisites for people, and what is your dream situation of somebody showing up with their dog? What commands do you want that dog to know? And do you want the dog to be clicker trained at all, or are there anything that you would like to mention as prerequisites before attending your class? And we'll sign off on that.
Okay, every dog that comes to our place has various degrees of training, training. But one thing we want is dogs at least have a good sit stay, down stay, a good heel, and some distance. If you get your dog to sit and stay or lie down stay from 10 feet away or 8 feet away, and you got some good distance. I mean, that's all. That's really all you really need. From there, the movements we teach, whether the dog now, if your dog has got a bunch of other behaviors, you're still going to do the same, those movements, but we'll be incorporating it, like, your dog picking up something if you already has a retrieve. So your dog will still be doing the same stuff the other dog is doing. He'll just be picking things up, stuff that's very, very advanced and things like that. Right, Brian? And so
we're teaching a lot of stuff. I mean, the dogs come in with certain behaviors and they leave with a whole lot more and had no idea that their dog could do that. It's like, wow, in 5 days we did that. Hey, you know what I noticed? Your head is a lot more round than mine. I got a cone head.
I know. I think it's an age thing. I think your head gets more of a cone head when it gets older. Like when it gets like, so maybe in 10 years.
So if I live too long, I'm gonna have
No. I was saying is like, when I get another 10 years, I think my head's gonna kind of go more A-frame type of thing.
I'll have a pointed head.
That's funny.
You'll start eating toilet paper.
Hey, so that's funny. Hey, one thing that we do though is we do a lot of looks. Dogs looking. People say, "What do we teach them for?" Looks back and forth, side to side. A lot of people don't understand. It's like getting a dog to look left and look right. A lot of dogs want to move their feet, so we teach dogs just to move their head and looking back, or throwing a look over the shoulder, or walking over here, stopping, and then looking and things. So a lot of that mechanical type stuff. So again, every dog that is, every dog that comes, even they only have the basics, they can do that. The looks, looks really, really good. The go with behavior that you saw right there, we train that on every dog. So again, if your dog has the basics, it has a good heel, we'll still train that go with. Sending your dog away from you, that's like another big thing. A lot of people don't really have the opportunity to send the dog, but sending the dog away to something and stuff. So that's that's another thing that we really kind of focus on too. And then what Brian and I started doing was we take Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we at the end of the day, we take an hour, and that 1 hour, it's free stuff. So we just are like going, let us know what you want to train. So you want to train a play dead, you want to train a head up, head down, you want to train this, you want to train that, you want to work on your retrieve. Like retrieve, we work on every day. We just wherever dogs are on your retrieve, we work on the retrieve every single day. But we also do a free form thing where we just work with your choice, whatever you want. We work with, and it's fun because we work with one dog at a time. So everybody gets to watch that dog working and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Cool, man. And be aware. So what I've learned today is like neutral and that the work away, right? To start to get that dog really, really good based on that verbal cues. And one of the things that I think that people have a knee-jerk response is something that they shouldn't do, which is that correcting. Let that dog go get that treat. If that dog breaks that walk or that work away and goes to the treat. So be aware of maybe some habits that you have as a dog trainer, as a dog professional already, the things that have worked for you that might jeopardize
Yeah, I mean, I think the message is really with that work away is it's a very, very advanced behavior. Brian and I do not recommend people even mess with it really unless they're kind of dealing with us, whatever. You're going to run into some problems with that thing unless you really know what you're doing with that behavior. So I would recommend reaching out to us. You can always reach out to us. We'll help you with that as well.
Yeah.
Just to make sure, because once you mess up one time with that behavior a couple times, you can kind of
I leave the leash. The leash is on the dog. When I'm first starting that, I have control over him.
We always let
and let the leash slip a little bit. If I say stay and he's not, I can pinch it and make him stay. I'm not popping him. I'm just slowing him down and making him stay. So it's really it's kind of a correction, but not a major correction to him. But if you keep the leash on him, then you have control. And they're not going to mess up. If you try to do this without a leash on them, they're going right to the food. You're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah, and we would always put like a regular collar, just a flat collar on the dog, and a leash. So no training collar
whatsoever. His collar. He's got one of the greatest collars around.
Yeah,
I love that.
But I still, but
I do too.
I still wouldn't use my collar for like this behavior. I would still do not use my collar. Just use a flat collar, just because we want, like Bryan said, we want when we correct the dog, we want it to be a really, really mellow, just not even I don't want to say the word correct. We're just stopping the dog. That's all we're doing.
What about the chain links on your collar? Wouldn't that be mellow? Tick, tick, tick. Like the dog might learn. I don't know.
The only thing is, here's the deal. We want with that behavior, we want it to be a thing that they're focusing on, not because of the collar and the sound. We want it to be something that it's basically they're doing because they know they have to stay there rather than that. And that's why I don't want to use my collar, because we don't want to give them the opportunity to basically hear anything. We want them to understand it's like, hey, if you sit, you need to sit there, and stuff. Not because of any sound or any really correction or anything like that. So like Bryan said, though, we use that line, and you'll see a lot of we do a lot of times when we're using lines. Lines are used just to kind of help the dog out and stuff like that, but we just use very little manipulation and things like that, with that line.
You just want to keep control. You don't want the dog to learn I can just go there anytime I want or do it. It's just control. If you tell them to do something, you got the leash on him, it's not doing it. Then you guide him over. It's just control.
Bill, it's kind of interesting because I was telling somebody people always go through my course. So they come from working at a shelter or something like that, or they work where they handle dogs. They take the leash and they're constantly, pulling and they're not, abusing the dog. They're just pulling the dog with a leash.
Of course. Yeah.
A lot of people do when I train the dog to go to a place, and let's say the place is going to be over here. We go to a place. So the dogs go to this place. And what people want to do is they want to pull the dog along and not give the dog the opportunity to basically have a choice to go to the place. We got it with the food, lure it with the food. What people are doing is that what a lot of times they want to do is they want to pull the dog, and not hard, but pull the dog, and the dog goes in the place. And a lot of trainers, when Bryan and I were starting the business, they did a lot of, a lot of force or, general, huh? So they do a lot of this, but they
heavy handling.
Heavy hand, but they don't give the dog a chance to think, and that's my point. So we try to give the dog a chance to think. Down the road, if we want the dog to go to a place, and he's 2 years down the road, and he's not going to put the leash on and give him a little correction. Hey, get over there, because he knows the story. He's just cheating. He's just slowing down or whatever. But early on, we try to really, really do stuff where we just use that leash just to have on the dog, and stuff, and we're not.
Well, that's the guidance.
Yeah,
the guidance, and just like we were talking about earlier before you got on, that there's a reassurance, right? So once the dog starts to do and starts to just be, right, that there's an aspect of relationship building, and we want the dog to kind of be free to know that they have autonomy in this environment, and then there's a way of reassuring, okay, that's exactly what I'm looking for. But I think we get a little bit insistent or if we get a lot of dogs that in a shelter, I get it, man, we got 50 dogs that need to go potty. We get into these habits of being insistent of like, no, go over here, come with me, follow me. And this is where we kind of let some of that stuff go, and realize too that maybe we have some ingrained patterns. And the other aspect of this is not only will you learn from Joel and Bryan, but we also have, depending on if you got 12 students, 15, 20 people there, that means that we got 26 more eyes on us. And I remember when I was teaching what's that?
That's a good point, because when we do our course and we have one person up there with the dog or two with the dog, all the other classmates are watching this and they're learning. They're seeing what is they're seeing the mistakes, and then they're seeing how it works, and then they're seeing the training, which is a lot of people learn from watching things. That's the way I learn. Me too. I can watch something and learn it much better than I can reading something. So it's really cool that all the classmates get to watch the other ones train and see what is going on, and that gives them a lot more insight into what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Bill, I love that word, insistent. I never heard that word before. I like that word. Great wordage. I like that.
Yeah, it is. It is exactly what it is. Insistent.
Consistent. The word
right.
we were talking about before. Yeah.
You're insisting the dog do this, right? Instead of giving that dog autonomy to choose the right answer. And not only that, but it's like we always want to put the dog in a situation where we're going to praise instead of always correct. And you see that with that, just like with people, man, you see that, oh, you see that weight of the world kind of coming off their shoulders, and just like, I am doing the right thing. Or even if the dog's just laying there on the set being lazy, and this is what we were talking about reassuring. That's exactly what we want you to do, dog. It's not a break. I don't want you to run around and be crazy. It's like you're being calm, and I'm going to take a second to reassure and to praise that, because that's exactly what I want. It doesn't mean that I'm going to reach down, pet you. It's not. I'm not giving you a treat. It's just like me looking down at my girl. I don't know where. Yeah, she's right here. Hey, good girl. You know, and just knowing, hey, you're doing exactly what I want right now.
Mhm.
It doesn't. It's, and that's part of the relationship that we need to put first before we start to really expect and be insistent. She's like, "What? Are you done?" But yeah, man, that's a great thing. And then once they show us that they know what they're doing, then we offer guidance instead of being insistent. We guide them to what we want. So
Very
awesome,
good.
you guys.
Hey, well, thank you so much for having us. Really, really appreciate it. I know
My-
Brian's been on for a while and stuff. I you I heard all his story and stuff. He's got a great.
He's
Yeah,
awesome,
thanks
man.
for stealing my show.
Well, before, you know, Brian, you've been training dogs longer than I've even been alive, man.
Thank you. I needed to hear that.
Well, I trained dogs longer than I've been alive. That's
I've been on this earth, man. Where was I before you started training dogs? I don't know, but
Yeah, I think the first dog I ever worked on a film was a silent comedy.
That's
before Charlie Chaplin and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well,
All
good
right,
stuff,
guys.
good stuff, Bill. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you bet. You guys stay right there. We'll say goodbye. Bye, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Hey guys, thanks a lot.
Hasta la vista.